You could blow up your email list so freaking fast.
Yep.
And then you send your weekly emails and your email at the bottom is a PS call to action about real estate. Like, I mean, you could have 100 clients.
They're asking us, how is the market? They're asking us, how are people buying and selling homes right now? We're telling them what to say. So if our response is like, oh, it's really rough right now, like, then they're going to think like, oh, wow, it's really rough.
I'm so sick of our account being at 16.9.
Yeah.
She's like, so I spent 20 minutes engaging and now we're at 17 and now at 17,000. And I'm like, oh, like that. It truly is that easy.
How do I get more leads? How do I stand out in my market? Is it unprofessional to talk about my kids on Instagram? Should I have one account or two? Do I really need a personal brand as a real estate agent? We are the Modern Agent Marketing Girls. We are two agents turned marketing experts who believe you can become the go-to real estate girl in your market all because you are you. I'm Chelsea Peterson, founder and CEO of Modern Agent Social Club.
And I'm Kayla Fox, Modern Agent's content creator. Let us be your guides as we talk about what it means to market your real estate business the modern way.
So refill your favorite beverage, open your notes app, and get ready to build a business and a brand you're obsessed with. Let's go.
Hi, Kayla.
Hi, Chelsea. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Girls podcast.
I'm just so happy to be here. Okay, so I wanted to know if you had a day all to yourself, what would you do?
I think ideally I would love to like spend the morning like cleaning my house and like getting things like tidied up. Maybe like reading a book or just walking around Target. I don't know, a long walk with the dog outside would be fun. But then I feel like I say all of those things, and then I would eventually be like, I have a great idea. And I'd go to my laptop and start working.
Oh my gosh, it's like the definition of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. What about you?
I always say if I could have like any job in the world, it would be to just read books all day.
Yeah.
But I also read with a very ADHD approach where I like read a couple pages and I'm like, oh, let me check my email, and read a couple pages. Oh, let me respond to that message, read a couple pages. And then all of a sudden I'm like creating a post for Instagram or writing an email because I got an idea that sparked. So it's kind of like the same thing. Like my favorite thing this morning, I went to bed really early last night. I fell asleep putting Henry down and I decided to just go to bed at 8:00. So I slept from 8, woke up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, I should get up right now and go read my book on the couch with the fireplace and a cup of coffee. And I'm like, but I'm going to get up in like a minute. And I was kind of cold and I fell back asleep until 7:30 and I was still the first one up. And I'm like, I would have had 2.5 hours to read and work. And I didn't get up, and I'm so regretful now. But that's like my favorite vibe is like fire going, cup of coffee, reading on the couch.
Yep. But I swear every time I take an opportunity like that to get up like that, someone in the house hears me and they're like, Mom. So what's the point? I may as well just stay in bed. Well, we're talking about slow days and what we would do during those days, because today we're talking about slow seasons in real estate and how we think it can actually be a good thing if you are spending your time wisely.
Yeah, how a slow season in your business can be such a big opportunity if you approach it the right way. And as I was thinking about this topic, we just had our book club yesterday for the 12-week year, and I'm kind of thinking like there's a lot you could pair with this topic. Yeah. Like give yourself a 12-week window to be really hyper specific on what you're going to try to get done, and have like a goal, an overarching goal attached to it, and measure what you're doing and if it's working. Because I think when we're slow, it can feel like this, almost like you're just waiting for something to pick back up, or you're waiting for the change to happen. But like the only way that's going to happen is from your own actions. And it can be really hard in the middle of it, because I feel like when you get slow, you kind of get deflated motivationally. Mm-hmm. Like you're kind of like, when things are going great, you're all like, yeah, let's go. Like things are great. But it's harder to do that when you're slow, because you feel like there is no traction. But I think like with the right mentality and the right to-do list, maybe you can really build that momentum so quickly.
Yeah. And it makes me think like it's, as we're heading into spring, hopefully we're probably going to be seeing more for sale signs in people's yards and whatnot. And I always just think those signs didn't just appear overnight. because they decided that morning to sell their house. Like, those signs are all representations of like conversations that have been happening probably for at least weeks, if not months, sometimes years. And so there's so much work that goes on in the background before people see that you're busy, before people see that you have listings or buyers or whatever. And we have to just be really intentional with that time and make sure we're using it wisely.
So I guess to like start us off, we have a couple of stats just to kind of look at the current real estate industry. So in January of 2024, the median gross income for a real estate agent in the United States was $56,400, and that's gross. Mm-hmm. So that's not including paying taxes or all your fees and all your expenses. And what was the other one? This is an increase actually from $54,300 in 2021. The average salary for an agent in the United States as of January 26, 2024 was $46,014. I saw a post from Jared James that said 74% of all realtors sold 0 homes in 2024, 2% sold between 11 and 20, and 0.14% sold 45 or more. So all that can tell you is that it was a hard year for real estate, but the agents who were selling were selling. Yeah. So like if you are in this slow season and maybe even like borderline, like, should I get out of this industry? Like, what should I do? I just want to encourage you, instead of giving up, to go all in, because it will make, you'll see the momentum build. It will truly build if you're putting in the effort. And I think like one thing I learned from the 12-week yearbook is that you need to keep putting in the effort. Like, what did it say? Like, most people's plans and goals fall apart in the execution. Like, that's where the breakdown is, because you stop executing and you're like, the plan's not working.
Right.
Like, the plan isn't not working. You're just not following the plan long enough to see the results of it. So one reason why I started this podcast and our membership and all the things is because the failure rate was so high for agents. And I just thought, like, there's a better way. Like, it doesn't need to be like this.
Yeah. Well, and I think they just need encouragement and stuff right now too. And like, I always say, like, yes, you and I have had like lots of years of experience in real estate, but we aren't doing it full time right now. So we never want to sound like tone deaf or insensitive to situations. But I know, like, I've gone through hard periods of business. Like, I've always owned my own business. And so I've had plenty of seasons where it's just been slow. We've had seasons where it's been like, oh my gosh, like, we don't have an extra dime to spend right now. Like, there's just nothing left. But I also look at how I reacted in those situations and how I, instead of, just saying like, woe is me, or let's cut back expenses or whatever, it was more like, well, what can we do to rev this up? It is a mindset. It is a, what do they call that? Like the abundance mindset or the scarcity mindset. There is so much truth in like getting your head right, that the truth is like, yes, even in an economy like today, there are a lot of people who aren't moving, right? But there's also a lot of people who are moving. Like, if you really look up on the MLS right now and see how many houses are for sale in your area, it's actually probably quite a bit more than what most people realize. And I feel like on that point, it is really important as agents to not only get our minds right and to not only tell ourselves the story that we need to be telling ourselves, to keep pouring gas on the fire, to keep pressing the accelerator on our business, but to also inform the public. Like, we give our clients, we give our community, we give our friends the words to say about the industry. They're asking us, how is the market? They're asking us, how are people buying and selling homes right now? And all of those things, we're telling them what to say. So if our response is like, oh, it's really rough right now, like, then they're going to think like, oh, wow, it's really rough. Like, but you know what I mean?
Honestly, a lot of the general public gets that from the media first and foremost. So like, instead of like feeding into that and making it like worse sounding and talking about it being hard, I want, like, if you can, like, energy is so contagious, whether it's negative or positive. And if you can have like the positive energy about it and be that like trusted guide that is like making people feel reassured, or just like, hey, things are moving, like people are still buying houses, people are still selling their house. Like,
yeah,
the industry isn't as bad as, I almost feel like these days, because of social media, when the market isn't great, it feels way worse than it is because of social media, because of just media in general. But let's kind of just talk through a few different strategies of like what someone could do. there's a million options. And I think sometimes the amount of options can make it overwhelming. Like, well, there's just so many ways I could go with this. Like, what is the right choice that could get me clients? Is it the fastest? Is it more for the long term? Is it, because really I think the hard thing with real estate is a lot of it is built around, and this was like a high pressure point for me as an agent. It's like in that right now business. Like, I need business right now to make it, right? Like, I can't make it unless I get a client right now. And that makes us act very chaotic in how we're marketing rather than building for the long term. That's going to build us a business that's sustainable and continues to grow and continues to get referrals and continues to like make us stronger. The right now angle actually almost is like to our detriment more than it is to our benefit if you look at the big picture. So I guess I don't really want to talk about like, let's cold call, door knock, and get a client tomorrow. I kind of want to talk about, if you're like, I'm in this for the long haul, I want to make it work, what would we do? What should we do?
Yeah. Well, even if we looked at it like, hey, within the next 3 months, I've got to sell 2 houses. Like, I've got to do something, you know, like what we do right now. I think it's appropriate for us to start off by talking about what we would do on social media, because there's so much there. And what I love about that is it's free. So if times are feeling tough right now, if you're feeling strapped, if you're feeling that pressure, start with that free app on your phone and start with being home. You don't have to spend money to post things on social media. You don't even need special equipment or anything. As long as you have your phone, you can do stuff. So where would you start?
Well, I know we talk a lot about social media being, it's more of a long game. And it is, you know, you're not going to build a brand in a day. But the cool thing about social media too is that you're kind of in control of it. It's not like a postcard where like you're going to send 1 a month, or even if you sent 3 a month, A, that's going to be really expensive. B, it's not going to really build relationships or anything. But like with social media, you have this ability to kind of choose and be in control of your brand and where it's going and how often people are seeing you, how often people are being exposed to you, the authority and trust that you're building. Like, that's kind of cool that you can do what you want with that. Like, I was thinking today, I'm right now kind of building out a plan to revamp my personal brand. And I was like, it's kind of wild that you could literally like get so much exposure in such a short amount of time when you put in the effort. So I guess like the first thing I would start doing is I would really start on my Instagram stories, because it's going to be like your gateway to showing up everywhere, right? And if you're already doing that, then it's probably time to take it a step further. But I would really lean into, I'm going to commit to building a personal brand. And the easiest thing you can do with that is start with a series. Like, it's going to get you consistent. It's going to get people to recognize like, oh, she does this every Monday. Like, and that one simple step is going to give you that little bit of a push to keep going. And when you have a series, like, think about like right now, The White Lotus is out and I can't wait till it comes out on Sunday. Like, if they didn't put their episode out on Sunday, I would just be like, what the heck, you know? Like, so when you commit to doing a series, you're kind of creating built-in accountability for yourself that you're going to show up on that day of the week with whatever you're committing to showing up with. Yeah. And for maybe just to get going and get the ball rolling, you make it local, because that's going to be like 2 birds with 1 stone, where you're doing a series, but you're also reaching people in your local community that is going to get more eyeballs on your business.
Yeah. And just for saying so, we've got lots of signature series ideas in our freebie that you can find in the show notes. But we also tell people, if you ever have created a post or done a reel or anything, and it's just like popped off well, not necessarily, it doesn't mean it has to have gone viral or that it has to have a ton of engagement. But even if you've had people in your community say like, hey, I really enjoyed that, or that was cool to see, you turn that piece into a series, whatever it is. It could be something as simple as like, spend a day with me in city name, and like literally just do that every other week. Or if you wanted to do more like episodic content, you could be more like day 1 of making city name my favorite place to live, or whatever. Literally just rattling these off at the top of my head. But yeah, when you start doing those things, you become known for something, and we get to tell the story. Like, that's what's so cool about branding and social media. We get to tell our story. We get to tell people what they think about us, and we get to tell people what we're going to be known for. So decide decide what you want that to be, and just lean into it. Like what you said, like pour the gas on the fire, go all in on it, instead of try this idea, and see that nothing sticks.
I think we need to go deeper, not wider, in a time when business is slow. But you'll also notice that doing that makes social media a lot easier. It makes the traction you're getting from it probably a lot stronger because people are seeing this one thing kind of repetitively. So, I guess going back, like local could be good, but as I'm saying that, I'm almost thinking like, what I would do is I would think about my ideal client, like where, and I know if you're slow, you're probably like, well, I will help anyone. But I promise you, if you just get a little more specific in what you're saying and the words you use on social media, it's going to be a lot more impactful, a lot faster. So think about your ideal client. Like, let's just say it's a move-up buyer and they're ready to sell their first house. They're outgrowing it. They're having more kids and they're going to move like in your area. Where are the most popular neighborhoods? They would go from like that price range to the next price range. So maybe they're going from a $350,000 house to a $700,000 house. And I want you to go once a week or even every day. Like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm saying. Like you can build your momentum as fast as you want to.
Yep.
And it depends how much time you have and what's happening, right? Like if you have the time and your business is slow and you're like, I have to make this work right now, you're going to do this a lot quicker than not. So maybe every other day or 3 times a week or once, whatever it is, once a week, you're going to go tour one of those neighborhoods. You're going to pull it up on MLS. You're going to look up all the information about that neighborhood. I want you to look up like what houses are currently for sale, what has sold in there recently, what is like the average price per square foot, what amenities does that neighborhood have. I want you to take tons of notes and I want you to document this journey and share it on your stories. And you can even share like, I'm going to tour this so-and-so neighborhood today, come along with me. And you bring them in your stories. And then you can turn that story into a reel that has a voiceover on top that's walking them through what's happening in that neighborhood. And then what you can do is pair that with stories kind of bringing people behind the scenes where you're going to share like, I'm going to open my actual laptop and flip my camera around and share the house that is currently for sale in that neighborhood. And then I'm going to put up a question sticker box and I'm going to say, drop your email if you want to see a list of homes available for sale in your area.
Yep.
Or like even a poll, like yes or no, I want to see houses available for sale or not, and reach out to whoever said yes. Like this is a way you can get like people coming through right this second. And the first time you do it, you'll probably have 0 people respond. But if you do this every single week and you make this like a Tuesday thing, not only are you giving yourself so much education about your market and you're becoming the expert, but you're bringing it into like real life by saying like, here it is and here's how I can help you, or here's what the market's like. It almost feels like your own little real estate TV show that's going to keep people coming back, because that to me is interesting. If someone did that where I live, I would be so interested in seeing like the different neighborhoods, the different houses. And even if I'm not moving, like I want to see it. And then you think like, okay, well, what if the person is moving? Or like, for example, when we bought our house, we were not really planning on moving at all. And it just happened to come up. And so like, you just never know. Like not everyone is sitting on Instagram thinking about moving, and not everyone is, some people might move in a week and they don't, or might buy a house in a week and they have no clue about that right now, which is wild. So I think that's where I would start to really pull the two things together and get people seeing like what you're doing and that you can help them and that you're the expert.
And you know what I really love about that? You don't need to have any clients. You don't need to be busy in real estate, but people are going to be seeing you doing those things, and they're going to be like, wow, she's really busy. Like, she's got stuff going on. You're becoming a local expert. You are presenting like your professionalism, you're learning things, and none of it costs you a dime. So I think that's such a great way to start. And a lot of times we like give ourselves that out, like, well, I don't really have a client right now, or, oh, I don't have any buyers or sellers, so I can't show how I can do these things. Yes, you can. Like if you get a little bit creative, if you decide like to get a little scrappy, you can do some of these things. And while you're doing that, what's so cool about it is if other buyers or sellers in your area are watching you, like I'm thinking, like if I live in that neighborhood and I, thinking about selling my house, you're the agent that I want to call. At that point, I don't even really care if you've sold a lot of houses. But the truth is, like, if that's how you're going to market my home, if you know this neighborhood inside and out, and if you know what all my neighbors are getting for their homes and whatnot, like, I'm going to trust you. And you've got a whole following of people who love my neighborhood. Boom, you're it.
I think about social media and how, like, this isn't really about if you're slow, but regardless, I don't think it's an option anymore, because if I'm a seller, I really hope you know how to market your business, because that's going to reflect into what you do with my house. And it's not really about like having a presence or about just having something for people to see, but I want to see that you can actually be a marketer at this point, because I want to know, like, that's a huge part of handling my largest asset. And if you're not doing anything except just posting like a just listed photo, like that's not marketing. And I think we have this huge opportunity, whether you have business or you don't have business right now, to show potential sellers how we can market their home. And I recently saw a post from an agent, and it said something like, basically talking about how she was like taking photos for her business and getting a photo shoot and like all these things. And it said something along the lines of like, this may seem fluffy, but if your agent isn't doing this, you shouldn't hire them to list your home. Like something like that. And I was like, ooh, that is super powerful. Like that, as a seller, I would be like, I want you. Like, you can come list my home, because I want you to do whatever you're doing for yourself, for my house too. And I think that's where we have to remember what the ultimate point is when social media can feel silly or fluffy, or like we don't have time for it, or like, oh, that's just something extra that I should do when I am like busy with clients. Like, this is how you're going to build your business. And we are so crazy lucky that this is even an option right now. Like, it's not 1991. You don't have to go door to door. You don't have to open the phone book and call people. You don't have to rely on sending a postcard for 6 years and then finally someone's like, I don't know any other agent, so I'm going to call this number. Like, we don't have to rely on any of those tactics anymore. And like, we need to come up with some strategic ways to leverage the thing that we have right in front of us, rather than like casting it off as fluffy, or that's going to take too long, or I don't have time for that. Like, we're going to like make time for it right now. Or if you're slow, like, you're going to figure everything out that you possibly can with it. And I have another little piece of advice, or like an example that you could follow. We're calling these story series, and we started putting them in our member content. And I'm going to give you one as an example. And I'll kind of show it on YouTube, but a story series is essentially like a collection of stories that you post together that is taking someone from like, oh, hey, hello, guiding them to where you're going to invite them to take the next step. So for example, the first slide that you're going to do for one of these is just a good morning, like whatever you're doing in your morning. So you'll see this is, oh, my light is in the way. It is a book that you're reading. It says good morning on the screen. You're on your couch with your blanket and your book. That's it. The next slide says creating a custom home search for a buyer this morning. So that's probably going to be a little bit later in the morning that you share that one. The next one says, did you see this reel about making your home search somebody else's problem? So the third story you share is guiding them to a previous piece of content that has to do with buying a home, starting a home search, something along those lines. So you're kind of pairing that, like, here's what I'm doing with your expertise and what it's like to work with you. And then the fourth slide is drop your email for your free home search. Do you want in on the fun? So it's just your laptop. So you can even copy the pictures that we have. You can copy the actual like text on the screen. You could make a post about what to do if you're looking for a house, or how to set up a home search with an agent, anything along those lines. And that's going to help people kind of, you're warming them up. You're not just never posting a story and all of a sudden, bam, do you want to get on a home search? Like no one's going to say yes to that. But when you're constantly dropping these pieces in, it's going to help warm them up and help people think like, okay, yeah, I do want to know what house is for sale. Or you're like doing the neighborhood tour and people are going to think like, oh, I do want to know like what that neighborhood is like. So that is another thing I would like weave that into your story strategy once a week if you want to have this call to action that brings people into like that like next step. And don't be afraid to repeat it, because people are going to see your story when they're really busy, like at the grocery store, or all of a sudden their kid spills their milk all over or something, and they may want to engage and then they forget to, or they forget to come back. So like repeat it every Wednesday, like give yourself a day, you know, to repeat it, so that you know that on Wednesday, I'm going to do this again with a little bit different of a spin. And you're giving yourself that opportunity to talk to people and have conversations about real estate every single week.
You know what I love about all of this is, between like signature series and story series, is it keeps agents from hiding behind real estate graphics. You know, like I feel like I like spend so much time on Instagram every week trying to like engage with agents and talk with them. And so many times I see people and I'm like, man, like they actually look like they'd probably be a lot of fun. They look like someone that I could probably get along with well, but I don't even know what they sound like. I don't know, even just a video of them like walking and talking. Like when there's none of that, it almost looks like a bunch of stock images. And even if their graphics and whatnot are beautiful, there's no like life there. But if you instead incorporate signature series, and I'm not saying never post a real estate graphic, obviously, but when you start having like your own signature series, when you start creating your own videos, your own stories, all of those things, then your brand really comes to life.
Like, let's say there's an agent. They mostly rely on kind of just like the graphics to keep their presence going. They mostly just put up like, you know, the real estate content, how to buy a house, or 3 steps to, you know, listing your home, or here's what I would do if I was selling my house. Like, what else, like what would be like a good insert post or piece of content that would help kind of break that up and really like invite the person in behind the scenes?
A day in the lifestyle of reel or carousel posts is a great way to start. And I want to do a whole episode on day in the life reels because I've got like so much to say about that. But what's so cool about that is it's just a matter of like piecing together those clips that are of you behind the scenes, whether you're working on your laptop, whether you're making breakfast in the morning, whether you're going for a walk, whatever that looks like. What's so cool about that, again, is you can make it appear, or you can be, but you can also make it appear like you're working on real estate in a lot of those clips, even if you don't have clients right now. And those clips are all like reusable. You can use them over and over again in other pieces of content. But if you start dripping in, even if it's once a week, every other week, some kind of day in the lifestyle reel, whether it's like just for the morning, the afternoon, a whole day, whatever it's going to look like for you, I think that style of content really starts those conversations. That's what really gets people to say, even if they're not saying like, oh, can you help me buy a house? They might say, ooh, what kind of coffee was that? Or where did you get those pajamas? Or I love your throw, or whatever. And those little conversations are what starts to build those relationships. And that's what can lead to more like conversions down the road. So I think day in the life is a really great way to start.
I would say 1 of every 3 posts, even every other post, try to get either your face or your voice in that post.
Yes.
So that you're not just like scrolled right by. Because when your face is in it, you're instantly going to like stop and kind of pay attention a little bit more than if it's just a graphic. Or even if it's a carousel post, putting a picture of you as the first photo is going to help make it more like personal than just like a white background. Like I even thought of that with our Modern Agent Instagram. We've been doing the same look for our carousel posts. And I was like, I think we should try these with us or one of us in the background of them to just, I think they would like get looked through more or like get a little bit more attention. So the next one I post, we're going to be in the background of it because I want to see the difference. Like, and obviously the topic and all that has to do with that too. But I'm like, these are such good pieces of content. And I feel like they got kind of ignored. And I kind of think that's why, just because there's so many graphics on Instagram, there's so much competition for attention that like, if you want someone to stop and like think like, oh, I want to know what she has to say, it kind of has to be a little bit more in their face that this is actually from you and it's not just another like graphic or another, you know, whatever. Like, I also really like those reels where people kind of do like, I did one in the game plan recently, I think, and it was like in the last, I don't know, you could do like a bunch of different directions. Like one was like in the last 10 years of my business, here's like my timeline or my storyline, or that was a real prompt I think that you had. And I saw like Jenna Kutcher does a lot of these actually, where she's like, hi, I'm Jenna. I'm 36. I am a mom of 2. I launched my podcast at this age. Like kind of like a little breakdown timeline recap of her life. And it's like a quick to read, easy to like understand, like kind of like meet and greet. And kind of looking at Instagram in that way, like it's this meet and greet, I think also really helps. Just like it helps get people that like familiarity with you. Like even if you're repetitive about it, it's even better.
But another thing that someone could be doing during a slow season, and we're not going to go into this on a lot of detail because it was last week's whole episode, but really spending time nurturing your email list is a great way to spend your time. So whether that is like creating or refreshing a lead magnet and creating some like promotional posts for that, or again, like story series style content that says like, hey, I have this local guide. So the first couple of stories you can share this is what I'm doing in town, or this is the one place I always stop to, whatever. And then later you can say, did you know I have a whole local guide for you? And then they can like opt in for that. And then, just like nurturing your list, writing emails. And because that's the thing. Like, we understand when agents get busy, when you have a lot of, pots in the fire, when you've got a lot of clients and things like that going on, it is easy to let some of those things go by the wayside. And then those closings happen, and then you haven't stayed top of mind for people. So why not get ahead on some of those things now? Why not really focus on nurturing your list and then like start reaping the rewards from that?
For a lead magnet, a good thing to do would be like, if I were really slow and had some time to really dig in and work on this stuff, I would make a local version of a lead magnet that's just getting people into your database that aren't necessarily buying or selling at all, but it's just people to stay top of mind with, because that's referral potential, right? And then I would make another one that would be more focused on my ideal client. So whether it is about the market, whether it's specific to buyers, specific to sellers. And one thing that I advise, just to like make this a little bit more desirable than like a buyer guide, is I would take like one aspect of the buying process or one aspect of the selling process or something more specific about the market and make your lead magnet that. So if it was sellers, I would maybe say like, here's your showing prep checklist, or here's, everything you should do or check off 30 days before you list your house, like something really specific. They don't need a whole entire guide of the process from A to Z, because that is, I think, extremely overwhelming for a seller to they're hiring you because you know how to do it. They don't want to read a guide that tells them every single step. Yeah. Like, they're going to pay you a lot of money to sell their house because they don't want to figure it out and they're not the expert. So in my opinion, like, if my accountant gave me a 60-page guide on how to do my taxes, I would fire them immediately and find someone else, because I am A, not going to read that, B, I'm not going to understand it, and C, that's why I'm paying them, right? So like, we don't want to give them like every single piece of information about selling. We want to give them something tangible that they can actually get done and cross off their list and feel like they're accomplishing something, and like you gave them something of true value. Right. And true value doesn't equal 60 pages worth of something or 150 steps to check off. Like, they don't want to be overwhelmed. They're never going to want to sell.
Well, yeah. And a guide like that, like if you do have like a, A to Z whole buying or selling guide, that's something that's really could be great for like an actual consultation or like a listing appointment or whatever, to say like, okay, when we leave here, you can look over this. If you have any questions, let me know. But to just lead with that in the forefront, first of all, if you give them all that information in the beginning, they've got no follow-up questions. Like, you've literally answered every question. So why not instead kind of start the conversation slowly, offer a little bit, and then like give them reason to continue to ask you questions and talk with you.
Well, I've offered plenty of freebies in my lifetime as an agent and as an online business owner. And I've really learned that the more simple they are, the way higher converting they are. If I made a guide of like everything to do to grow your business using Instagram, like, you would probably want it, but you would open that thing and be like, I don't have time for this. Like, oh my gosh, I am overwhelmed. What does this mean? I don't get it. Like, you would probably just shut down. And like, that's the last thing we want. We want someone to get a quick win, to be able to implement the thing that you told them, to want to come back for like, okay, what's my next step? Like, this was so great and so helpful. And now I need you to guide me down the next piece of this, or like answer my questions or whatever. So I think that would be another just thought to keep in mind. And then kind of circling back to what to do on social media. Another thing that I think would be a non-negotiable, whether you're slow or not or anything, is to be on video in some form. It's just going to help everything move quicker. It really, really will. Video builds so much trust. And it's just interesting because when I started Modern Agent, I always had a video component to like what I taught. And then it was kind of like, video is the future. Like, in 2 years from now, if you're not on video, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, video's now. It's been now for quite a while. Yeah, it's yesterday. And now it's like not even a choice anymore. No. So like, if you're not getting on video, you're probably not seeing results from your social media marketing, especially as a real estate agent. Like, again, it's such a big purchase, such a big sale, that it's not a t-shirt. I just think it's a non-negotiable if you're using social media for marketing, and it's just going to move the needle a lot quicker. And when you're slow, or new or whatever, like you have so much time to dedicate to like, and it doesn't need to be perfect or professional or like, you know, recorded with a camera. Like it's your phone camera flipped around and your face and voice talking to it. That's it. That's all a video needs to be. Yeah. And they can be quick and they can be simple. And again, always go back to like the simplicity of it, like sharing one takeaway or telling one short story.
Another thing that I think people who are experiencing a slow season right now should really take advantage of outside of the online space is getting in front of people in real life, whether that is meeting up with friends or hosting a book club, grabbing lunch with someone. Maybe you've had people who have said like, oh, someday I'd like to buy or sell whatever, offer to meet them for coffee, especially now that it's spring, people are outside more. If you have the opportunity to go to like a farmer's market, and yes, of course, document all of these things, share them online, but being face-to-face, getting out in front of people, talking with people is really invaluable. And I think sometimes, especially when we are social media savvy, it's easy for people to look at their time spent online as like the absolute best way to spend their time. And while we love it because it's one to many and you can, it's so convenient, right? It also is not the only way. And like even what you were saying about video, like the reason video is so powerful is because we need to hear voices. We need to see faces. So do that in real life as well.
Getting in real life is a really good one. Like I love the idea of starting a book club because you can do it with your friends. You can maybe even say like, I'm going to invite 2 friends and you invite 2 friends and the other girl invites 2 friends. That's how I started my book club with one of our members, Allie. And it just can be a great way to meet other people. And like a couple of the girls in my book club, for example, are also entrepreneurs. So they've had like events, like Allie hosted a bar class, not a bar class, it's called the Bar Code. We went to this workout class and she invited a bunch of clients and like other entrepreneurs. And then another girl's a photographer and she did, like a grand opening of her new studio and like, and we're like supporting each other. And I unfortunately couldn't go to that, but it's just another opportunity to connect with people and just like expand your network and get in person with people and maybe try things you haven't tried. Like I hadn't tried a bar class. So it's just a fun way to kind of take that like level of communication even deeper. Yeah. Another one that I wrote down because I don't want to forget is if you are new or slow or even you're neither and you just are ready for like something to kind of up level what you're doing and reach more people in your community. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No, actually.
Start a podcast.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I want to do a whole episode on this, so let us know if you're interested. But when I say that, like, I think if I were to do this, it would almost make you like the digital mayor of your town. Like, oh my gosh. It could be a weekly 5-minute episode where you might share a deep dive on your favorite coffee shop. Or maybe you're going to share like all the places I love to work in city name, almost like you would take local content and turn it into a podcast episode. Yeah. Or it could be like, if I was moving to city name, here are the 3 places I would want to know about. Or if I was going to spend a weekend in city name, here's everything I would do. And you're just going to turn that into podcast format where your voice is on it. Who wouldn't want to listen to that if they lived there? Like if someone came out with a local podcast, I would listen to that every week in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. You could do like local events, and not that you need to share every local event, but like try to lean into whatever your ideal client is. So like if you have kids, share kid-friendly things. Mm-hmm. If you don't have kids, then don't. Like kind of, lean into whatever your own personality is. It could be like, you're going to share dog parks or like where I love to take my dog or like, hey, this one lake in town allows pets or dogs, whatever. But like that's going to allow you to connect with a bazillion people and then have your local guide be a lead magnet on your podcast. Just like we said, our freebies in the show notes, put your lead magnet in the show notes and you could blow up your email list so freaking fast. Yep. And then you send your weekly emails and your email at the bottom is a PS call to action about real estate. Like, I mean, you could have
turn it all into a blog, put it all on Pinterest. Yes. Like you're everywhere. And then you've positioned yourself as like the go-to agent in your community.
And you could even insert episodes that are a little bit real estate specific. Like maybe once a month you do like a Market Monday and you just talk in like layman's terms, really simple to understand, like what's happening in your market. Or maybe you tell the story of a house that you sold or the story about like what your buyers were looking for. Or you do an episode on like, here's everything buyers in this area have been looking for in 2025. Like this makes me want to start a real estate podcast.
Right. Such a great resource.
But it would be, honestly, keep it simple, keep it short. The hardest part about a podcast, and Kayla may disagree, to me, is the editing. I don't know how to edit it. It gives me a headache. I just want someone to do it. Thankfully, Kayla's been doing it. But like, that's really the biggest part, is getting the episode edited. But if like you can find someone to outsource that to, or you can figure it out, then Riverside makes it super, super easy, I think, is what Kayla says.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard once you kind of learn it. But I also had a podcast before too, so I've had some experience with it. But no, I totally agree. I think it's a great way to like stand out. And like, think about it then. If you have a listing or whatever, if you're able to like blast that on your podcast as well, like once again, you're standing out in your market as like the agent. No other agents are doing that. I know a lot of agents who have like real estate focused podcasts, but a lot of them are like talking to other real estate agents, or they are talking just about the market. I've never seen an agent do like a local podcast. Put that on YouTube.
I want to do one so bad.
I know. It'd be so powerful. So I think that's a great idea.
Like, picture this. Like, you have a local podcast. Your episode is like my summer bucket list for city name.
Yeah.
And then you have an ad in the middle that says, it like starts like this. Like, imagine opening up your back door to the birds chirping, trees surrounding you, your pool's glistening, and you walk out with your coffee, and it's an advertisement for your listing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, click the link in the show notes to learn more. And that link to see your listing requires them to enter their email address. And now you get them on your email, and they're a lead. They like, oh my gosh, I wish I could mentor an agent to start a podcast, but maybe later.
You know, honestly, I think that at some point we should do a podcast episode about how to actually start a local podcast, because I think that would be so good.
Yeah, we totally could. I could sit down and talk about this for, like, picture you know how we talked about last week, start like everything about email. The email list is like sitting down in your living room, having pizza and drinks, like after the party with your friends, and having like your deep dive conversations about like all the things. This is like what I would be talking about at our after party. So maybe I'll do an email on
there you go,
starting a podcast.
How about local podcasts? I love that. That's so fun. What else do you have on your list? What else should people be doing when they are slow right now?
You know, I think another thing that we didn't touch on at all, minus through email, is like communicating with the people that are already in your sphere, your past clients. And not that it has to be anything like major, like hosting an event, but it could be simply like texting whoever is in your list of past clients and asking how they're doing. Or like, hey, how's the house? Wanted to check in and say hi. You're just getting to their, like, it popping into their brain. Meeting one for coffee, meeting someone for lunch, like getting in person again is like a great thing to do right now.
Along with that is like fine tuning your systems too. So if you have, first of all, if you have no system for following up with past clients or with other people in your sphere, like now is the time to be doing that. Create a system that works for you. And like we've talked a lot about this week, but like you get to decide your system, right? Like as real estate agents, you are your own boss. You get to decide how you want to run your business. And so find a system that really works for you. And if that means that there are 3 different, CRM platforms that you are obsessed with and that work really well for you, great. If that means you use Trello, like I know Hustle Humbly always recommends, like that's really great too. But like now is a great time to really like clarify those things, get organized on the back end, so that when you do start getting that influx of clients, and maybe for you an influx of clients feels like 3 people call you and all of a sudden you feel like, oh, what am I doing? Why not get everything ready so that when those clients do call you, you're totally prepared.
You could put together buyer packets right now, like have them ready to go, put together whatever your plan is for listings. Like maybe, again, when you're out, if you go out and do like those neighborhood tours, like I recommended, I want you to think through like, okay, what would be the next step if someone's like, okay, I want to talk to you about listing my house. Like, do you have that ready to go? Would you be starting from scratch? Obviously, Hustle Humbly is my top favorite resource for all things to do with like email templates, client systems, organization. They're going to get you so organized. Having that stuff ready to go makes you feel like you're so much further ahead. One thing though is like difficult, like balancing your time between like those activities versus the ones that will actually generate business. Right. Really try to like split what you're doing so that you're not like, okay, all my systems are great, but now I have no clients to like put them through, I was thinking about, how for our 12-week year book club, we kind of did a sample plan for an agent wanting to build a personal brand in the next 12 weeks. Should I go through just like what that is?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I'm sitting here thinking, I can't believe we haven't talked about fine-tuning your personal brand yet.
I know. I think the reason we haven't, like through kind of everything we've talked about, all those things will help you build a personal brand, right? And if I can recommend one piece of advice to add on to every single thing we mentioned today, is to know your brand menu and to weave it into all of the things we mentioned. So your brand menu, you're going to tour a neighborhood, you're going to bring your Dr. Pepper and you're going to make it show up in that story, in that video, in that reel. You're going to bring your dog to go tour the neighborhoods that you're touring. You're going to bring your toddler and push them in a stroller or let them ride their bike. You're going to, like, that's how you weave in that personality piece. And that, I think, is essential to layer on to every single strategy we've given so far and make it that much more powerful and make your brand memorable. Like, that's what's going to make you stand out above, like, whatever this actual strategy is. So let's say this is based on the 12-week year book. We kind of did a sample goal setting. So it goes deeper than this in the book, but this is like one of the first steps, is to establish what your goals are. And you want your goals to be like the very end result. So like it needs to be specific, measurable, all the things. So example goals, I have 3 of them. Number 1 is define my personal brand. Number 2, get 10 referrals. And number 3, be more present as a mom. So these are the goals for the next to accomplish in the next 12 weeks. So each goal you list out tactics, which we call your go-to girl tasks. And so the tactics for defining your personal brand, let's kind of run through them. Number 1 is go through the Modern Agent Starter Pack. So that's going to help you figure out how to define this personal brand and start using your brand menu, all of those things. The second thing, audit your current feed, determine which posts feel like you, which ones don't. I always ask myself, like, as I'm posting, like, who is this for and what is the purpose of this? And if you can't answer that, don't post it. Or like, don't post it again if you already did. Like, what is the point of this post? Is it going to help me grow? Is it going to help me have more conversations? Is it going to help people learn about what it's like to work with me? If like none of those answers are yes, then maybe skip it or don't do that again. The third thing is get 10 B-roll clips with your brand menu and have them saved in an album in your camera roll. So this could be like you walking your dog and you're holding the camera out like this. It could be you stirring up your coffee or in the front seat of your car, like putting your seatbelt on, like just like regular B-roll clips throughout your work day as an agent. The next one is share 1 minute of your day in your stories daily. So I kind of like to almost operate like a day in the life is happening in your stories every day without calling it a day in the life. So you have that good morning, you have a sneak peek of what you're working on today, you have a sneak peek of maybe like the show you're watching or what you're doing before bed, what you have for dinner, just little tiny clips. And then share 1 reel or post with your face or your voice weekly. So that's at building authority, trust, credibility. And then the last thing is add a personal brand element to every post or reel that you create. So that's that on-brand item. So that Diet Coke, that Dr. Pepper, that beverages are so easy for this. And that's your tactic. So you like some of those you'll notice where like you do this once and then check, like take your B-roll shots, check, audit your current feed, check. And then the rest of those were like repeat daily or weekly. So that's going to help you continue to like add in these pieces that warm people up to showcase who you are as an agent. Are we ready for the second goal? I feel like I'm talking really fast.
You're fine.
Okay. You guys can slow me down or speed me up. Okay, goal 2, tactics. Goal 2 was get 10 more referrals. So obviously what I just went through is going to help contribute to this as well. But the second things that are more tied to getting referrals that I'm giving as suggestions are start your email list, send your first email, and then send weekly emails with a strategic PS and call to action. So something to do with real estate, something to do with featuring a new listing, getting on a home search, behind the scenes of your business, something like that. Then do 1 story series per week. So we talked about that earlier. So those like collection of 4 stories, or it could even be 5 or 6 that guide someone from warming them up to asking them to like take that next step if they're ready. And then interact with 5 local accounts per day. So comment on their post, respond to their story, share their post to your feed or to your stories, one of those things.
That's such an underrated way to spend your time too, because I feel like that is so powerful. And, you know, behind every little circle on Instagram is an actual person, like the actual name, actual face, who like love to hear from you and love to engage with you. So I love that.
It's funny. I want to tell this. The other day, Kayla sent me a Slack message and she said, I'm so sick of our account being at 16.9. Yeah. She's like, so I spent 20 minutes engaging and now we're at 17 and now 17,000. And I'm like, oh, like that. It truly is that easy.
Yep.
That if you have a good bio and it's like direct about who you are and you have a personality in your account where you don't look like a robot or like a billboard, right, you're going to get people to follow you when you go comment on their posts and respond to their stories and interact. And it's not just about follower number. I don't want to make that seem like a vanity, fluffy thing, but it's helping you get in front of more people and get more connected with people and have like conversations with people that you truly want to interact with. Like we don't just engage with people because they say real estate agent. Like right, we're very intentional with engaging with people that we actually want to follow, you know? So kind of think of that too. It's not just about like a numbers game, really. It's about like authentic interactions.
Yeah.
And then goal 3, which I think is a really important one, is the be more present as a mom. What is happening with my phone here? The first thing on there is remember we're not emergency room doctors. I love that Hustle Humbly always says that. Like no one in this listening probably is an emergency room doctor.
Right.
Put your phone away from 5 to 6. Eat dinner as a family at the table together. Like those are 3 things you could commit to doing every single day.
Yeah.
And that's going to help make you more present as a mom. So,
and we purposely included a goal like that wasn't necessarily directly attached to business, because we can reach all our business goals. We can set those goals. We can reach them all day long. But if they're not aligning with our life and if they're not supporting the way that we want to spend our time and like the people in our lives that we love, like what's the point? Like who cares how many millions of dollars of real estate you sell if like you're not happy in your own home or your kids don't see your face without your phone right in front of it. And I did love, like I loved how our book club meeting started by like, let's, get these goals. Let's really set things out. And one of the very first things that came up was like, I just want to unplug and I want to be present. And I just thought like, it's because you can do both. You can sell a lot of real estate and you can be present, but you have to be intentional. So I think those goals are awesome.
What I like about this whole conversation too is that all the things are very intentional. Like if you're going to sit down and write an email, and send it or schedule it. Mm-hmm. If you're going to tour a neighborhood every week, make your plan and go do it. It's none of this is about being on your phone all the time. None of this is about like that, oh, you better work 24 hours a day if you want to grow your business. Like I'm all about a hustle. Like we're in a hustle season right now personally. And we've been working really, really hard, but we still are present and we still have time to do the things that we want. We still take vacations but we're still working really hard. And that's like my definition of hustle. It's not never take a break. It's like, it's time to take action and make things happen.
I know I keep bringing up the book U Squared, but it's because it's so powerful and everyone needs to get it. We should have like an affiliate link for it because I have had a couple people reach out and be like, what was that book called again? But this quote was so good. It says, make your move before you're ready. A person could make a career out of laying the groundwork to do something really big. But please understand, you don't prepare, you make it, and then you fine-tune your approach. Getting ready is quite frankly a stalling tactic, an act of anxiety, a con game you're working on yourself. You are already positioned to escape to a higher plane of performance. If you wait until you can get it perfect, you will never get it at all. So I loved that one when talking about this whole topic because there are things you can do in a slow season to prepare for when you get that influx of clients, but then there's also things you need to be doing in that slow season to reach out and get those clients, right? And to really like be talking with people. But neither of those situations involve sitting down and just waiting for a client to call you. Like it's about taking that initiative. It's about being the boss, being the business owner, and making things happen. And so much of it, I think that we get in our heads and think like, oh, like there's this magical formula or there's just something there's a secret. Someone else knows something. So I'm going to download this guide or I'm going to grab this or do that because someone knows something that I don't. When the truth is, especially in real estate, it's all about like relationships. It's about listening to people. It's about like making those connections because again, like through all of those things, through the signature series, through emails, through personal brands, you're making connections with people. And that's what's so cool about it.
What else is really cool about this is a lot of these strategies are going to build momentum that doesn't just like die. Like if you're calling one-on-one people individually, that phone call will go nowhere else. Like it's not going to like live on or whatever. Whereas like our reels that we create with our face in them, or the email list that we start building, or the lead magnet that can be constantly promoted for the next 5 years, the people that come through that as a result, like all of those things are going to live on. If you start a podcast, oh my gosh, like these things are not just one and done. No. So like when you are spending the time to put the effort into them, they're going to pay back so much more than like an individual cold call, an individual postcard, an individual open house even. Like, and again, we're not saying you can't ever do those things or that they're bad. It's that how can we use our time more effectively and make it have a lot bigger of an impact for your business? Like, because if let's just kind of recap maybe what like the different things we did talk about, because I think we gave them like a lot. Yeah. So kind of starting with just stories and those story series, really having that be like something you're repeating all the time. Doing a neighborhood tour, committing to that once a week. Sending an email to your database or starting an email list, building out a new lead magnet or taking one you have and maybe making it better. Or if you have this big seller guide, taking out a sliver of it and having that be the lead magnet. What else did we talk about? Starting a podcast.
Yeah.
Getting on video.
Getting on video. Just texting your friends. Yeah.
Texting your friends.
Yeah.
Starting a book club or something like that. Yeah. Like maybe it's with my aunt actually, her son graduated high school. Well, he graduated a few years ago now, but that year when they were all seniors, she started a mom group called like Class of 22. And she's like, I'm getting together with my Class of 22 group. And like, I'm sure you know who this is as I say that. My Aunt Kim, she always gets together with her like Class of 22 group. And it's just so cute. And I'm like, that's such a fun idea. Like it could be something that simple, but I think that that's such a cool way to build community. And it's like with people in that like same phase of life as you that you could really connect with. And then, you know, those are also people who can help you grow your business, who can refer you business, and never do this as like a pure business strategy. Do it out of building relationships, obviously. But 100%. I think that that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, I hope that this conversation has been encouraging for people. I hope that you remember, like, even when it's slow, even when money is tight, even when you don't have that other client, you know, knocking at your door, or calling you or whatever, that, you know, like business really is out there. Yes, maybe the market is different now than what it was 3 years ago, but it doesn't mean that people aren't moving, and it doesn't mean that people aren't in need of a great agent. So be that resource for them, show up for them, because you deserve it. And let's be honest, like, we feel like it'll just never end, right? But like the truth is, like, there will come a day when the market will get more steady, when people will buy and sell without really even blinking an eye, when home prices will hopefully be more affordable, when mortgage rates are a little more affordable, when all of those things, like, eventually the stars always align again, right? But you have to be doing the work now to get there, to reap those rewards. And so commit to like one or two of them, at least to start, and like, let us know what they are too. If you have like listened to this episode and you're like, you know what, like, I never thought about doing a signature series before, or I never really thought about really like, just like spending more time even in person with people, like, let us know what you're going to be doing. And we want to be like cheering you on and rooting for you, because we really do believe that you will see growth in your business because of it.
And like, take advantage of it. Like we're saying, a slow season is such a good opportunity. When I started real estate in 2013, it was a really slow market, and it was just still, we were getting out of the like really, really, really hard time, but it still wasn't great by any means. Like I remember my sales director saying like kudos to you guys for getting into this right now, because it is not ideal, but it helped me do all these things so that when I started to get busy, I had systems in place, and I like had my marketing kind of down, and I figured out those things that would have been really hard if I was like starting in a crazy, crazy time. Yeah. And it helped me like just become a better agent. And I want to end with this quote, which is from our book club yesterday. Mm-hmm. So it's from the 12-week year, but it says, you want to predict your career path and future income. Look at the actions you take each business day. Your actions tell the story.
Gosh, that's like pure fire right there.
So time to go take action. Yes. Stop listening to us. Go do one of the things.
Yes. I love that. Very cool. Chelsea, this is a great conversation. Once again, I hope that it's been an encouragement for people, and I'm excited to see in the months to come all our agents getting so busy because they took action today.
Yes, and please let me know if you're starting a podcast. I will be your first listener.
Yes, I love that so much. Sounds great.
All right, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.
I'm so glad we got to hang out today. If you're as sad as I am that our time is up, I've got good news. There are a couple of different ways we can keep the conversation going.
First, follow us on Instagram at Modern Agent Marketing Girls and introduce yourself in the DMs. Also, we always have a free Modern Agent resource available, so check out today's show notes for the goods.
And finally, hang out with other go-to real estate girls like you and finally create a marketing plan that works when you join Modern Agent Social Club. All the details are in today's notes.
XOXO, the Marketing Girls.